Oh, hi, I didn't see you there. My name is Bliss Foster. Welcome. Today I am answering questions about fashion. I asked on Instagram and my private Discord server that's part of my Patreon to get some questions that are a little bit more nuanced about fashion, things that move beyond just the most basic straightforward questions, and y'all really delivered. This stuff is excellent. I don't have time to answer all of these. I'd really like to, but yeah, we're gonna go in. I don't think there's any other intro I need to do. Let's jump in the first question. How do you create a fashion brand and survive without doing a job on the side? So I do not have a degree in fashion, and I have never had a fashion brand. I don't design. Trust me, y'all do not want me to do that. Here is what I have noticed from most of the designers who are doing okay that I've talked to. The normal path for most designers is that you go to fashion school, you graduate and get a job at a fashion company, maybe 2 fashion companies, and you work in the industry at another company for around 7 years. And then you are planning and saving up money so that you can then move over and start your own brand. And what that does is it makes it where you have an enormous amount of industry experience. You're not searching around saying like, oh my gosh, how do I get stuff manufactured? You know how to get stuff manufactured because you've been manufacturing collections for 7 years. It also makes it so that you have some really solid contacts from school and from multiple years out in the industry working. And you're able to get in touch with people, ask like, oh, hey, I really need a product manager. Do you know of anybody who's available right now? And people are able to recommend you around and stuff. You're kind of part of the ecosystem, and that gives you a lot of advantages. Another thing that I can tell you is that a lot of designers that I know who are surviving on kind of a shoestring budget that most people would think of as like, oh, you couldn't have a brand with just that much cash flow. What are you doing? A lot of those people are able to save money by knowing intimately how to make clothes themselves. You don't have to hire a pattern cutter if you're really, really good at cutting patterns. Likewise, you can save a lot of money if you're doing production in-house, especially. You can save a ton of money if you're able to just jump in and spend 4 hours a day just making some clothes. That could save you a whole extra employee, or at least a whole extra contractor. Knowing how to do a lot of the stuff yourself, especially the more technical side of things that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. Those things will save you money. Okay, so this is a great one. In the future, will fashion become more practical and functional or more avant-garde? Most of the big leaps in modern fashion history have been because someone introduced something that was more practical and pared down. Like when Yves Saint Laurent introduced Pret-a-Porter into Paris fashion, that was him moving them in a very bold but more simplistic and practical direction. So since we're now in a place where streetwear has essentially, I'm using that term very broadly here, where streetwear has kind of taken over the entire industry and that's become the norm, we're quickly approaching this question of where do we go from here? There's kind of no way to make things more simplistic than they already are. So the next thing would be either that we have some huge revolution in materials or whatever, where it's like Back to the Future, where everyone just kind of has these pre-made, disposable, and perfectly recyclable clothes, or we're going to maybe see more avant-garde. I mean, right now, kind of the status symbol is like, oh, look, I have these like very comfortable clothes, but these are very luxurious. I wonder if maybe the marker of like, I'm a fashionable person will be the willingness to wear something that is very avant-garde and doesn't like conform to all of the practical needs that most people think of as necessary in order to live their life. I would love for things to get more avant-garde, but I'm also terrible at predicting the future, so. Oh, okay, so this is a super good one. Do you think the title creative director in fashion makes mystification of the actual labor? So I think what's being asked here is like, is creative director sort of a way to kind of muddy the waters and make it unclear how this is actually happening? I think yes, but I don't think that's purposeful. So there are about as many ways to be a creative director as there are creative directors. Ultimately, the role of a creative director is to lead the direction of the brand, to kind of be like the president, where it's like I'm not, in some cases, not actually doing much of the work itself. I am making sure that that all of the work is conforming to a singular vision. But maybe a better comparison for that is that it's like a CEO of a large company thinking about where the brand is going to go in the future. You're kind of setting up the building blocks so that you can make the next really big step with the thing. Again, I think this is a question worth digging into more, and that it would be a good thing to kind of keep in mind as you're looking through fashion brands' work, is to kind of be constantly asking the question, what does creative director mean to this specific person? Because I guarantee that, I mean, anything from Matthew Blasey, who just got appointed at Bottega Veneta, everyone from Matthew Blasey to Virgil Abloh to John Galliano at Margiela, I mean, creative director means very different things to these three people and to just about everyone who is in that role. Okay, this is an awesome question from one of our power users on the private Discord, which, by the way, if you're looking for a fashion community that is super supportive and not toxic and mean, as well as a place where people are having really good conversations like this, my private Discord is absolutely incredible. If you join the Patreon, it's just a few bucks a month. You get exclusive videos, you get extended episodes for a lot of the episodes that are public, and you get to join the best fashion community that I've ever been a part of. So one of the people in that community asks, I want to know, what does Grail mean once it is acquired? Does the luster of a Grail wear off after buying it, or can you look at your closet and always think, wow, I can't believe I really own this? So by coincidence, I actually picked up 2 of my lifetime Grails this year. I haven't seen them for sale even, but one of them was a Margiela Hospital bracelet, one of the original ones that was done while Martin was still at the house. And then a undercover jacket that I've been looking for years. I've had money set aside for these 2 items for 7 years, and I just finally found them and like immediately purchased. And yeah, I mean, it's like everything else that you want. I mean, you want the thing and you think about it a whole lot, and then you get the thing, and I love those 2 pieces. I value them a whole lot. I certainly am not willing to give them up, but there is a part of you that starts kind of wondering like, wow, why did I want this that badly? That's honestly why I try to preach this message of not really having Grails, because if you're just obsessing over a singular thing a whole bunch, then when you finally get it, I don't know, this is how the brain deals with wanting things, is that you just want the thing really bad, and then there's the moment where you're like about to get it, and then you have it, and then you just want something else. So I mean, that's why I tend to encourage people to be more into learning about fashion as an art form rather than focusing solely on shopping and acquiring things. It's because that's the easiest way to get burned out in fashion. It will always feel better to feel like you're coming to a better understanding of this stuff as an art form than to just go buy stuff. Now that we're entering the 20s, do you see Surrealism making a resurgence in fashion? Dang, that is a good question. I sure hope so. I think we're kind of in this place right now where maximalism is kind of reigning supreme. That seems to be, I mean, it's always really hard to make calls about this if it's this recent. That seems to be because of Alessandro Michele's work at Gucci. He kind of pulled us, especially menswear, out of this super minimalistic streetwear phase and kind of pushed us into more of a maximalism mindset. I think part of what we're in right now is very surrealistic. I think that a lot of the stuff that fashion people value is very surrealistic. I mean, it kind of always depends. It's hard to not just talk about surrealism to just mean like it's kind of weird. I hope that things get more traditionally surrealistic, like if we get more into like Dali type stuff and more of like Man Ray kind of stuff, that would be really cool. I think we're a little bit there right now. Hopefully that continues in the future. Again, I'm terrible at predicting things. Okay, this one is great because I was asking this question frantically years ago. The best books, resources, person, or accounts to go to learn how to be a personal stylist. There are almost no resources at all for this. I was trying to be a stylist like 10 years ago, and I found that it was incredibly difficult to make money doing that. The only people that seem to be successful at this, by the way, there are 3 kinds of stylists. This person is asking about personal stylists, but I'll make this broader for anybody else who wants to know about the other ones. There's personal stylists, which means you are selecting clothes for people. There are celebrity stylists, which is people who dress for red carpet stuff. And then there's editorial stylists, and those are the stylists that are on shoots at like, Vogue or 10 or whatever. Okay, so the personal shopper, I don't think there's any resources for that at all. It is going to be incredibly hard for you to start off in that and to get work if you do not live in a major metropolitan city, specifically that has a lot of black tie events and galas. Events like that are what the very wealthy are looking for help in order to dress for. If there are no events for the wealthy people in that city to go to, then there aren't a lot of occasions for them to think like, this outfit is so important, I have to look exactly a certain way, I need help finding the perfect thing. If it's just like, I'm just going to lunch with my friends and then I'm going to the office and then I might go on a like weekend trip somewhere, people usually feel fairly confident about dressing for all that stuff on their own. But a lot of that just comes down to charisma and being willing to get your network out there and meet people. There aren't a lot of resources for getting started on that, which is really unfortunate. Celebrity stylists, I have no idea how you get plugged into that without just being connected in the first place. And then editorial stylists, that's what I specifically wanted to be. It is, again, it's even harder than the first option. It's even harder to make money. There's a lot of examples of stylists coming in and doing shoots for very major publications, and they just don't get paid at all. There are fewer people who are getting paid to be an editorial stylist than there are players in the NBA. It is really, really tough to get started in that, and it's really tough to make a career out of it. It's possible. I want everyone to know it is very, very hard. Where has Craig Green gone? No clothes the past 2 seasons. Yeah, this question actually made me super worried because I was like, wait, I haven't seen anything from Craig Green in a while. And then their Instagram has just a black profile picture on it and they haven't posted in a while. What's going on? So I did a Google search and clicked on the news results for Craig Green, and they posted 2 weeks ago that they're hiring for a full-time product manager, and it's a permanent position. So I think the company is doing okay. They're probably it might be connected to the pandemic, but I don't think the company is going under or anything. How do sizes from Japanese brands, Final Home and such, compare to US sizes? They tend to be much smaller, but it completely depends. You can often, when you're buying stuff secondhand, check on the actual measurements of the piece. I mean, I'm not able to fit into a lot of stuff from Undercover, even in a size extra large, because my shoulders are really broad and I am tall. But usually on the secondhand market, they post measurements, or you can request measurements. And a lot of times, if you just Google Final Home sizing or capital sizing, you can usually find some pretty good answers on stuff like that. For me personally, whenever I'm buying Japanese stuff, it's always a case-by-case basis where I'm trying to frantically make sure that this specific piece is going to fit my body. You dress so unique. Thanks. Thought process when making an outfit: design, inspiration, texture, color, vibes. I personally think that personal style is super overrated. I made a video about this a while back where I just kind of was basically saying you need to abandon personal style and just align yourself with a designer's vision. And then, when you're able to afford something, go get something, usually secondhand, by that designer, and then just wear it. And don't worry, don't fret too much about oh, is this going to fit into my personal style? Oh, I don't know. I mean, there are some people who do personal style exceptionally well. Reggie Casual is his personal style, whenever he does talk about that, it's very detailed, very nuanced. He has a system, and that system works super, super well for him. For me, I'm just not into planning all that much. So for me, my personal style just looks avoid black, because I have to be on camera and it's really difficult because I'm super pale. The contrast there makes it really hard to light videos. So I tend to avoid black. I prioritize texture and material, and then also pattern cutting over color. So I want unusual patterns for most things. I want things that are made of, wool and linen and cashmere and that kind of, I want things that are not just made of polyester, cotton, and rayon. If you could go back in time and see any fashion show, which one would it be? Come on, y'all. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna leave this one up to y'all. Come on, which fashion show would I go back in time and see? I think this is really obvious, but I'm curious to know if y'all know. Check the comments, leave comments with the guess, and I'll highlight the first person that gets it. Thank you so much for joining me. This was a ton of fun. I think we're gonna do one more episode like this at some point. Thank you so much for the brilliant questions. This stuff was absolutely wonderful. I really appreciate you all. I love you a lot. Go join that Patreon so that you can get involved in really nuanced, good fashion conversations. We have a whole section where people are just submitting their portfolios for fashion school so that other people can review them. We have a whole section called Fashion Business Advice, Fashion School Advice. We have a whole section for fashion resources where every resource imaginable has been posted on there. There is years of content to go through in that one Discord server channel. It's really a special place. It's the best community I've ever been a part of online. You should go check it out. Patreon.com/BlissFoster. Thank you so much for joining me. I love you infinitely. Goodbye.